Good afternoon. This is Damian David with Healthcare Triangle. Welcome back to Week in Review. This is week number 14. Have some good headlines for you. I'll get to talk with my colleague Suzanne Eveleth about what you should be thinking about if you're about to take on a surgical suite implementation or a project. Some things, maybe some tips to help you get into that a little bit quicker, some things to flesh out before you actually get underway with the project. Truly will save you time and a lot of pain along the way as well. And then I'll get back in and I'll leave you with a nice little song and some visions for celebrating us making it through months and months and months of COVID-19 and coronavirus pandemic. So again, just the regular week thank you and gratitude towards you, extending yourselves and putting yourselves and families at risk in order to care for your communities. That just helps us throughout the country, throughout the world, deal with this pandemic. So appreciate your efforts and your energies. Keep it up, and hopefully your spirits remain high. Been doing this a long time. Stay safe. You'll notice the headlines here. We're about to hit a resurgence. We're going to start to see more numbers as far as COVID-19 cases throughout the country, at least, if not the world. And yeah, I hope that you continue up with your diligence and your social distancing routines to make sure that you stay safe. Okay, let's get into it. Monday, July 13th, 2020. Here's some headlines. So up until now, we thought maybe, you catch COVID-19, get coronavirus, recover, build up the antibodies, and you're done, right? Well, had a couple cases here recently where patients, they've recovered from COVID-19, tested negative once, twice, even 3 times over the course of 3 months that they've been recovered, and then they were reinfected, okay? So not too many cases that way, but it is growing. It's over a handful at this point, and it's also been reported that not everybody who recovers from COVID-19 necessarily develops antibodies for it either. So be careful, all right? Please, still be vigilant. Make sure you're putting forth the efforts. Just as a side note, as an example, we've had COVID parties where hosts either have coronavirus COVID-19 or they invite somebody with it and host these parties so that people can catch it or get COVID-19 in hopes of recovering and building up the antibodies. Not such a good idea, especially knowing now that you can get it more than once. Also, recently, a 30-year-old man from San Antonio who had attended a COVID party where the host actually had COVID-19 and invited friends over. He got the virus, came down with COVID-19, and he died. On some of his last words to the nurse were recorded as being, quote unquote, "I think I made a mistake. I thought this was a hoax, but it's not." Okay. There's way more and much more that we have left to learn about this coronavirus COVID-19. It's still a threat. Please continue to be safe. Florida's got our largest growth as far as COVID-19 cases now. They reported 15,299 new COVID-19 cases just on Sunday. Okay, so that's one day's growth, 15,000, almost 15,300 new cases in Florida. 33 states are experiencing a surge in the number of new cases of COVID-19. Those states are Alabama, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Montana, where I am, Nebraska, New Mexico, North Carolina, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Texas, Utah, Vermont, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wisconsin. All having surges with COVID-19, new cases. 14 states are holding pretty steady, those being Alaska, Arizona, Maryland, Mississippi, Nevada, New Hampshire, Oregon, New York, Rhode Island, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Washington, and Wyoming. And then there's 3 states that are actually reporting declining rates of new infections: Delaware, Maine, and who would have thunk, New Jersey. Okay, so if you're looking for places of safe harbor, perhaps it's whittled down to just Delaware, Maine, and New Jersey. Please don't necessarily flock there, though. I like the fact that they're declining, and I think a lot of that has to do with people staying home and staying safe around there. So try not to transport and transmit COVID-19 coronavirus by jumping around too drastically. Fourth headline, people still celebrated the 4th of July at Michigan Lake near the Torch Lake Sandbar. That's an area where thousands of people usually gather every year to celebrate the 4th of July. They did this year in the height of the coronavirus pandemic, and not surprising to me, more and more cases of people that had attended that party they're basically diagnosed with COVID-19. So we'll keep an eye on that and see if there's a little bit more as far as spread for the other folks that might have attended. I don't know the numbers exactly. As the details come forward, I will try to gauge and try to get some clarity around, of the thousands that attended, how many people have come down with coronavirus and COVID-19. That brings us to the stats for the week. Okay, so world confirmed cases of COVID-19 have reached 12.9 million cases around the world. Last week we were sitting at 11.6 million. Around the world, 7 million have recovered from COVID-19, whereas last week only 6.27 million had recovered, and we have documented 571,000 deaths from COVID-19 around the world. Last week we were sitting at 537,000 deaths. Narrow it down to the United States this week, we have gotten to 3.37 million confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the U.S., okay? You do the numbers right there, that's almost a quarter of the world's COVID-19 cases are within the borders of the United States. It's in our country here, okay? I do not want to lose grip of this, so please continue to socially distance. Please continue to do your methods to make sure that we can be safe. Last week, we were just at 2.99 million. So we've grown quite a bit, almost 400,000, 500,000 cases in the U.S. alone. 989,000 have recovered from COVID-19 in the U.S. Last week, we only had 901,000 recoveries. And this week, we're up 5,000 deaths in the United States, having recorded 137,000 deaths from COVID-19. All right, well, that brings us our headlines for the week. I've left some links below, similar resources, some Meditech resources to help you navigate that area. I have a couple good dashboards for the COVID-19 pandemic era that you might want to check out in the description below. I also have a link to my colleague who I'm about to shift over to the conversation that I had, Suzanne Eveleth. She's a highly regarded consultant that here at Healthcare Triangle that has helped plenty of clients navigate getting a successful implementation of their surgical suite done, or optimization around the area as well. She's got some great tips, some great time saving, and some pain saving features and strategies in rolling out projects or even optimizations. She took the time to talk to me today. I was thrilled. I haven't gotten a chance to talk to her too much over the past couple of months because she's been so busy and entrenched in helping some of our clients with surgical projects. And then also, the separation because of the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic. So it was good to catch up with her. She joined me from the Battle Creek, Michigan area. Again, just such a talent to work with. Let's jump over now and talk to Suzanne. Hey there, Suzanne. Good to see you. Thanks for taking some time and having a conversation with me. How's everything going?
Hey, Damien. It's good to see you too. Everything's going well.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thanks for joining me again. Just kind of wanted to get into it. So I wanted to pick your brain about some things to think about, what bases you want to have covered rolling out your surgical suite for some of the hospitals and healthcare organizations that are starting to do so. We've helped a lot of hospitals successfully stand up their surgical systems, and I wanted to expose 2 or 3 critical decisions or strategies that other hospitals should have in place well in advance of their implementation to ensure a smooth project.
Well, I've been thinking about this for a little bit, and one of the things that I have seen slow a project down is not knowing going in what your charge strategy is going to be, and if you're going to look at changing your charge strategy, because that can have a significant impact on the build. It can actually, if you're going to charge on a procedure-specific level, you're going to need to have your procedure list built out to accommodate that, and it's probably going to need to be a good deal more specific and more voluminous than if you choose a charging mechanism like a time charge rule. So that's a decision that you want to have going in to the new implementation. And if you're looking at making a change to that strategy, you want to have that financial research already behind you when you start the implementation of your new software, so that you're not leaving your team waiting for decisions based upon what the difference in charging strategy is going to look like. And then the other things are things that you can do ahead of time to put yourself in a better position at the beginning of your implementation that seem fairly obvious, but have your procedure list cleaned up. Oftentimes it's already in an electronic system and you have multiple people that have had access to building procedures. You may have, one procedure that says laparoscopic appendectomy and another procedure that says appendectomy laparoscopic, and they're the same thing. So work through your list, clean it up, and then also look at your preference card process and how you're doing at making sure that those are current. It's very easy for preference cards to kind of get behind, and sometimes, especially in smaller facilities, your techs may just know what the providers want, but your preference cards aren't necessarily as up to date as they need to be. So as soon as you make the decision that you're going to move to a new system, you really want to look at that process that you have in place for making sure those cards are current, so that you don't have a team spending a lot of time building something into your system that is not what you want. So I could go on, but that's,
No,
that's 2 or 3.
that makes a lot of sense. I feel like once people get underway and they get into the project, if they're still thinking about these 2 areas, then they're kind of already behind, right? So
exactly.
The clock is ticking, and they're spending time and energy on things that they could have had ready for the actual transition of the project work. So I think they're great tips. Thanks. In this day and age, coronavirus, COVID-19, it kind of changed the rules on us all of a sudden, most recently. Up until recently, it really did put elective procedures on timeout, if you will, for quite a few months. How have you seen this impact some of the projects that you've been working on?
Well, you're right. It kind of put everything on hold across the board from a surgical standpoint. Really, it was, elective procedures were just completely off the table. And I think probably the biggest struggle in terms of workflow and what do we need to figure out was a really efficient way to be able to cancel those cases and then quickly get them back on the schedule once the restrictions started to be lifted. And I've seen a couple of different strategies for that. I've seen sites that thought about using the waitlist functionality in Expanse. I personally think probably the most efficient thing that I saw happen was that sites just expanded their background parameter settings so that when they canceled the cases, it allowed the canceled cases to stay in what's called the cancellation bucket on the surgery schedule for a prolonged period of time until such time as the restrictions were lifted, and then they could just select their new date and time and pull those cases back on. And as long as those cases were linked with their pre-surgical testing appointments, you could kind of do both of those steps in one process in terms of rescheduling the case and the pre-surgical testing appointment.
Yeah, excellent tips there. Yeah, thanks for kind of going over that with me. All right. Well, hey, I always like to put people in the hot seat when I talk to them. Again, thank you for taking a few moments with me. It's great to kind of catch up with you here. I hope we get a chance to hang out a little bit once this whole thing is behind us with the pandemic, if you will. I want to put you on the hot seat, though, with a hot seat question. You ready for it?
Sure.
All right, excellent. So coronavirus, COVID-19, we're in the pandemic. What's your favorite hobby been?
Trying to stay active has been kind of difficult. So I've been surfing online, finding Tai Chi videos and old Taibo videos. I've actually been doing it in my spare time. And another thing that we did when we were kind of in the height of going nowhere, my husband and I found an old Gothic soap opera on Amazon Prime called Dark Shadows, and we actually binge watched Dark Shadows while we were in lockdown. So yeah, that was kind of fun.
Oh wow, yeah, I'll have to check that out. I don't think I've heard about that yet. Yeah. So with all the different Tiger King and all that type of stuff going on, I could definitely use a new show to watch. So I'll check that out.
Yeah, late 60s, early 70s. It's pretty campy, but it was kind of fun.
Hey, thanks so much for taking a few minutes with me. It's great to see you, as I said before. And again, looking forward to seeing you when this all blows past us.
All right, thanks, Damien. It was good to talk to you.
A special thanks again to Suzanne for joining me on that call. Really appreciated being able to catch up with her. If anybody's interested in more tips and tricks around surgical implementations and optimizations, please don't hesitate to reach out to her on LinkedIn. I've provided the links again in the description. Please also don't hesitate to reach out to me. I love hearing from you. I really enjoy the back and forth that I get from doing these weekend reviews. It really helps me be able to kind of keep track of what the trends are, what's on top of mind, what's important for leadership in healthcare, especially as we go through these tough times of not knowing what to expect with coronavirus and COVID-19, the pandemic, and coming out of it, and what's to be beyond this, how we're setting up and what we're going to see in the future here. So again, welcome conversations of all types. Please continue to reach out. It's been great. I really do appreciate the camaraderie of it all, if you will, and the back and forth. So with that said, I'm going to leave you with some music and some visions. Again, thank you very much. I'm very grateful for your work and efforts, and let's keep it up. We're getting through this. Really appreciate you, and I'll talk to you next week. Take care.
After all the jacks are in the boxes and the clowns have all gone to bed, you can hear happiness staggering on down the streets, the footprints dressed in red, and the wind whispers Mary. A broom is drearily sweeping up broken pieces of yesterday's life. Somewhere a queen is weeping. Somewhere a king has no wife. And the wind cries Mary. The traffic lights, they turn a blue tomorrow and shine their emptiness down on my bed. A tiny island sags downstream, 'cause the life they live is dead. And the wind screams Mary. Will the wind ever remember all the names it has blown in the past? With his crutches, its old age, and his wisdom, it knows this won't be the last.